We finally got some sort of roadmap with the recent letter from Modkeeper and the livestream they did, and it was very underwhelming. We pretty much get a quest, the combat beta changes, quality of life features, and Easter event in the next 2 months. But Jagex still did the right thing, and no, I'm not just being a shill for the company. They did the right thing for the longevity of the game, but they also proved why the gaming industry works the way that it does with this single statement. So what will we even expect from these updates? Why did Jagex do the right thing? And how have they proved that the gaming industry is actually right? You'll find everything out in this video, so let's talk about it. Before we address the clickbait title that you will soon find out is actually, weirdly enough, not clickbait, let's talk about the statement from Modkeeper and the kind of roadmap that he gave us for the next 2 months. So for February and March, because after that we still don't know what they're doing. We still don't know if they're going to start a new quest line, if there's going to be any bossing content, whatever the hell they're going to be doing. We have no clue. What we do have a clue about though is that we're going to get a new Owlery quest added to the city of which looks really cool, and it's going to be, you know, a nice little quest introduced to the city, talking about the lore behind the owls that fly around there, and introduce more owls flying around and give us some rewards, which will be cool. I like it. I always like little quests like these. It's great. It's good for world building and stuff like that, so you can't be mad at that. It's going to be good, but it's pretty much the only permanent piece of content we're going to be getting in the first 3 months of this year. Because besides that, we're going to get quality of life features and hit list changes, which are good, and I love them happening throughout the year, but they should be accompanied with actual piece of content, at least in my opinion. We're going to also get an Easter event in the theme of the Christmas event, which I think is a great thing because the Christmas event was great. We're going to get an Easter event that is kind of similar to it. Absolutely fantastic. I love that. I'm all for it. But yet again, not permanent piece of content. And the combat beta changes, which will actually be the crux of this video. But let me quickly tell you why it's so important that we get permanent piece of content. Because a lot of people are either on the fence of like, we need it, or why are people complaining? And to give you a little bit of perspective, why it's so important to get permanent piece of content, besides me being able to make videos on it and other content creators as well, is that it's good for the game's PR pretty much. Because see it this way. The majority of players in RuneScape are casual players, which I know sounds crazy, especially if you're on social medias, but your average RuneScape player has around 1700 total and about 60 base stats or something. And that is a stat actually, you know, once addressed by RuneScape, so that's not me just talking out of my bum. That's actually a thing. They are probably playing different games as well. And, you know, they might be hopping around. You need your game to be like, hey, look at this very cool, enticing piece of content that you really should be playing, or if you can't play it just yet because you don't have the levels, want to work towards, to be able to keep those casual players coming back. Pretty much retention. And, you know, sometimes games focus too much on retention rates, like I think RuneScape did last year, but that's pretty much like the name of the game, pretty much within the entirety of the gaming industry, is to get people to play your game over all the other games that they're playing. And I feel like if you don't have new enticing content coming to your game continuously, it means that a lot of those casual players might just stick out of playing RuneScape for a little while longer. They might still return, but yeah, that's like one of the major reasons why it's so important. But the combat beta is the perfect example of why Jagex is doing the right thing, but is also proving the gaming industry right in the way they look at things. So let me paint you a picture. You guys know that I run this channel. I talk about RuneScape, and I like to think that I know a lot about RuneScape. But besides that, I also run a second channel where I do more deep dive videos on games and gaming companies and the inner workings of the gaming industry in a more structured, researched, edited way. So if you're interested, go check it out in the link in the description. I would highly appreciate it. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. But this is not a promotional video for my second channel. This is just to kind of paint you where this knowledge is coming from. Because this is not just me talking into the abyss and stating my opinion. These are actually facts. And what you gotta understand is that there's a trend in the gaming industry that is introduced by Bungie. Bungie, the developers of Destiny and Halo, have pretty much introduced, or were one of the introducees of a trend called, I would pretty much call it pump and dump. You pretty much release a update, and if it works, fine. Maybe, change some things that were absolutely broken and fix some bugs here and there, but don't really change anything fundamental about it. And if it fails, too bad, bro. Like, it sucks. Let's move on to the next update. That's pretty much the mentality that is very common in the video gaming industry, and that you see at many AAA games and just games in general that you'll be playing, where there's an update release, and if it fails, it usually just gets ignored, unless it's really that broken, or it really affects the game in a certain negative way. And usually that negative way is to do something with their profits, right? And that perfectly ties in to this combat beta. Necromancy was so powerful that it pretty much made all the other combat styles irrelevant, which is a very bad thing for Jagex, because that means that pretty much all the other pieces of content that were attached to all the other styles, think about the bosses and progression paths that you need to, follow to be able to get the gear and the abilities and whatever else, were also pretty much made irrelevant, because pretty much all you need to do is just train Necromancy, train your invention, and you're good, right? Like, you're pretty much good. Unless you play an Iron Man, and then, it's slightly different. But for the average player that plays a main, it made a lot of content completely redundant. And them changing the other combat styles is needed for the longevity of the game. And I think everyone who's watching this video and listening to me right now would agree that that's 100% the case. That there needed to be a buff or a nerf to Necromancy or a buff to the other styles to be able to balance everything out and to bring more relevancy to the other styles again, even if Necromancy still remains the most powerful style. But it also proves why the gaming industry usually doesn't fix things unless it's really needed. And even so, it shows why they're not doing it. Because if you look at social medias, if you look at just the general consensus and the vibes around the game, and I would even say player numbers to a little extent, because I don't know, I don't look at the RuneScape player numbers on the daily, it kind of shows that they don't do this because, yeah, it does lose them players. Because a lot of people lose interest. Even if they understand that this is the greater good for the game, they probably would have rather had a new questline or a new boss or whatever. That would have brought the excitement, even if it would, increase the damage that one powerful style like Necromancy is doing for the longevity of the game. So yes, it's a really good thing that Jagex is focusing on the combat beta, and by the looks of it, they're using so many resources on this combat beta that pretty much the major developers that would otherwise, I guess, make bosses and other pieces of content are focused on bringing you these combat beta changes when it comes to abilities, damage, and just overall quality of life features to it. It's apparently taking so many resources that I guess we are not really getting any pieces of content. And I think if we would ask people, would you rather have combat beta changes or actual piece of content, I think the answer would be a lot different. Of course, we would love to have both, but it doesn't look like that is a reality or something. I mean, I might be proven wrong when they release something huge in April or May or June or whatever, but if they don't, then I'm proven right. And I don't want to be proven right, because it's really dangerous for the game. And on the long term of things, if Jagex does these combat beta changes and then, in May or June release something new like Necromancy Part 2 or something, or whatever, a huge expansion or whatever it might be, right? We're fine and dandy. Like, we're just gonna go through like the low period now, we swing upwards again, and then we go down again, and we go up again, just how it always goes with RuneScape 3. But if the last actual update was the last Fort Quest and Vorkath, which was overall not really positively received, and the next, actual piece of content is gonna come in, I don't know, April or maybe even May, that means that we haven't had proper piece of content, like lasting long-term piece of content, for about 6 to 7 months, which is a really long time, especially if you think that last year we pretty much got something pretty meaningful every single month. And that's worrisome. And I'm very curious to see where Jagex is going, because in my opinion and from my point of view, they're playing with fire. And I'm really worried for the future of the game if, there's not going to be a big announcement in the coming months coming for RuneScape 3. But hey-oh, what do I know? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Leave a like on this video. Don't forget to check out the second channel and subscribe to this one if you haven't done so already. And my name's Chevalric. I'll see you guys in my next video.